The holographic projection flickered in the dimly lit command center as Hazel watched the Zarathi delegation materialize on screen. Their chitinous forms gleamed under the artificial lights of the diplomatic chamber, mandibles clicking in what their translators interpreted as cordial greetings. "They're playing their part well," Leo muttered beside her, his fingers dancing across the tactical display. "Almost convinced me for a second there." Hazel allowed herself a thin smile. "Almost. I said almost." Leo pulled up a secondary screen showing energy signatures from the Zarathi fleet, positioned just outside the neutral zone. "Their weapon systems are cycling on a loop. They think we can't detect it, but they're keeping everything hot. No one powers up antimatter cannons if they're serious about peace." 3 months ago, when the Zarathi had first proposed the armistice, the Galaxy Council had celebrated. Humanity's war with the Insectoid Empire had raged for 7 brutal years, consuming resources and lives on both sides. The treaty seemed like a miracle, a chance to rebuild, to recover, but humanity had learned something the other species of the galaxy hadn't quite grasped. Hope was a luxury. Paranoia was survival. "How long do we have?" Hazel asked, watching the Zarathi ambassador's translator render flowery speeches about eternal friendship and mutual prosperity. Leo's jaw tightened. Based on their fleet positioning and the energy buildup we're detecting, 48 hours, maybe less. They'll wait until the treaty is signed, give it just enough time for everyone to let their guard down, then strike. It was elegant, really. The Zarathi had nearly defeated humanity once before. 3 years into the war, they'd pushed human forces back to the Sol system itself. But humanity had a peculiar talent for turning desperation into innovation. The quantum disruption fields, the Neuralink fighter squadrons, the planet killer countermeasures, all born from humanity's refusal to simply lie down and die. The Zarathi had learned to respect human military capability, but they'd made a critical error. They assumed humans thought like the other galactic species, that humanity would welcome peace at face value, would be so eager to end the bloodshed that they'd lowered their defenses. They didn't understand that humanity had been forged in deception, had evolved on a world where the predator and the prey both learned to deceive, where warfare was as much about misdirection as firepower. "Admiral Chen is in position?" Hazel asked. "All 17 fleets," Leo confirmed. "Officially, they're on standard peacetime patrol routes. Unofficially, they've been running combat drills for the past month and are positioned to execute Operation Checkmate the moment you give the word." Hazel pulled up the master strategic display. It was beautiful in its complexity. Hundreds of ships, thousands of variables, all coordinated through quantum-entangled communication networks that the Zarathi couldn't intercept. Every human vessel was exactly where it needed to be, disguised as routine activity while forming a perfect encirclement. "The other species are going to be upset," she said softly. "The Velastri, the Cormand, the Centauri Federation, they all think this peace is real. They'll get over it," Leo replied. "Better they're upset with us for being paranoid than mourning us for being naive." The Zarathi ambassador was wrapping up its speech now, calling for the formal signing ceremony to begin. Hazel could see the representatives from a dozen other species preparing to affix their marks to the treaty. They all looked so hopeful, so relieved, that only the human delegation remained stone-faced. "Ambassador Hazel," the Galactic Council mediator called out, "will humanity sign the treaty?" This was the moment. If Hazel was wrong, if her intelligence was flawed, if Leo's analysis was somehow mistaken, she would be starting a war that could have been avoided. She would be responsible for countless deaths, would forever be remembered as the paranoid human who threw away galactic peace. But she'd spent 6 months reviewing every piece of data, every intercepted communication, every suspicious fleet movement. She'd assembled a team of the best analysts humanity had, including Leo, who had an almost supernatural ability to read enemy intentions, and every single piece of evidence pointed to the same conclusion. The peace treaty was a trap. "Before we sign," Hazel said clearly, her voice carrying across the chamber, "I'd like to propose one small addition to the terms." The Zarathi ambassador's antennae twitched, an almost imperceptible sign of irritation that the translators didn't catch, but Hazel had learned to recognize. "An addition?" the mediator asked, confused. "We've already negotiated every clause, a mutual verification protocol." Hazel continued smoothly. "Both sides will power down all weapons systems within their fleets for the duration of the signing ceremony." As a gesture of good faith, the silence that followed was deafening. The Zarathi ambassador's translator remained quiet for a long moment, too long. The other species began to murmur, confused by the pause. It should have been a simple request to accept, if peace was truly the goal. That is, irregular, the ambassador finally responded. Our weapons systems are already in standby mode. There is no need. Then it should be simple to comply, Hazel interrupted. Unless, of course, there's a reason you need to keep them active. The Zarathi delegation conferred in rapid clicks and whistles that the translators struggled to keep up with. Hazel could see the calculation in their movements, the moment of decision. Leo, she said quietly, her hand moving to her communicator. Already on it, he replied. All fleets are go. The Zarathi ambassador turned back to the assembly, mandibles spread in what might have been a smile or a threat display. We regret that humanity cannot accept peace in good faith, it announced. This proves what we have long suspected, that humans are a threat to galactic stability. As if on cue, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. The Zarathi fleet was powering weapons, moving into attack formation, but they were 3 seconds too slow. Admiral Chen's forces dropped out of quantum space in perfect formation. Already firing, the Zarathi flagship's shields collapsed under concentrated human fire before they could fully form. Across 17 sectors, the story was the same. Humanity had anticipated every move, countered every strategy, because humanity had always known. The other species would learn in time. Humans didn't hope for peace while preparing for war. Humans prepared for war while negotiating peace. It was a lesson written in Earth's own bloody history. In countless conflicts where trust was a weapon and treaties were written with the victor's pen. Hazel watched the tactical displays as the Zarathi fleet crumbled, outmaneuvered and outgunned. There would be a real peace, now one written on humanity's terms. You know they're going to ask how we knew, Leo said. Hazel smiled grimly. Let them ask. Maybe they'll learn something useful. In the end, that was humanity's real advantage. They'd learned their lessons the hard way. On a single blue planet, where survival meant seeing through the lies, the galaxy was just beginning to understand what that meant. The peace treaty had been a ruse. Humanity had known it from the beginning, and they'd planned accordingly.